Well, hi, Juanita. What did you bring me to look at
Well,
here?
I don't know what we call mine. This is a sewing basket, I guess.
And are these pieces that have been with you for a while, or?
Well, no, I just collect things like that.
Do you?
I don't know exactly how long I've had them.
Do you remember where you bought them or how you found them? Or?
At secondhand stores, but I don't know exactly which ones.
Yeah, sure. Well, you have a pretty good eye, and I'll go through it with you to help you refine your eye a little bit, okay? This piece, it's called a tilt top or flip top table or candle stand. And in early America, in the homes, they had candle stands. And so, during the daytime, it would sit by the fireplace and it would be a decorative face that would be up. And then when you wanted to put candles on it, you would flip it down like that. You can see it's got various, this is called stringing, which is the real tiny inlays, and that became popular in the federal era of furniture making in America. They would string things. And then the fancy, it's veneered. These are fancy, I say they're a burled walnut veneer, and burled meaning the notch of the tree it's like a big wart. They cut it, and it's beautiful because it's just kind of got a good grain to it. These are cabriole legs. Again, this is hand lathe turned on a lathe, and then these are cope cut and formed. It's got a molded top. This is called a molded overhanging top because the edge has been conformed to have some shape to it. But it's a second generation. This is a 20th century piece of an early American. It's an early American revival. It's kind of sort of what the deal is. So it's got a few little issues with the finish on the top, but it's not bad. I mean, just a mild restorative oil on it would help it a bit. Watch out, you get the right one, and don't gum it up. But I say it's probably worth $125 to $150. Okay? And then the sewing basket on legs. It's kind of shaker style. And again, early in America, the shakers started making these beautiful baskets out of bent wood. And this appears to be oak, but it's not. It's ash, which has kind of the same grain, but it's easier to work with. The top is mahogany and mahogany veneers. And then the bottom is pine. And the sides are oak. So it's got all these components and these are maple. So we have
So it's got
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kinds of wood in it. And again, it's a shaker revival piece. So this was probably done in the 1940s to 50s by the hardware, is what I say on it. And it's just in that early 20th century, they really liked that early American look, and they brought it back. And everybody's house for a while had a bunch of the colonial revival or early American revival, and then they went on to French revival, and that's when all the big white picture frames came in and all that sort of thing. So value on this is probably $150, somewhere in there. Sewing collectibles are always highly sought after. They're kind of big girls' toys. They collect the sewing stuff. Yeah. So anyway, thank you so much for coming
thank
in.
you.
Well, how are you doing today?
I'm
I
doing
like your
great.
shirt, 4th of
Thank
July.
you. Yes,
great.
I'm patriotic.
You bet, and the earrings too. Let's jump right into it. You have this little pin here, which has a donkey, and how do I say this on TV? He's got a safety pin. Would you say it for me? Through his private.
On his diaper.
Yeah, that's
Safety pins on his diaper for a time for a change.
Yes, very good. Nicely said.
Yes.
But anyway, it's a political statement. It probably dates from the mid 20th century through 1960s, maybe somewhere in there. Do you think?
I think it says 52 on the back.
Oh, good. Yeah, and also it's sterling silver, 52 GOP. So it's a political collectible. There are any number of auction houses or eBay that deal in political pins. I like that it's sterling and it's kind of comical. It's got this kind of naughty little part to it. So $50 somewhere in there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Then this pin here, it's a pin or a brooch.
Says Kramer on it.
It's made by Kramer, who are a high-end costume jewelry maker, probably in the 1960s. And these stones have, again, that aurora borealis color to them I mentioned earlier. And what that is, it's like gasoline on water. It's got that purple, pink, gold look to it. But that color is actually called aurora borealis, and that name was invented by Eisenberg jewelry company who are, yeah, a little bit more superior than this one. You know, it's got a brass mount or bezel to it. So, you know, value on it's going to be $45.
Oh, okay. These were in my mother's little jewelry box. That's where they came from. And I always just had them there and thought, hey, this would be fun to take care of.
Well, you know, how old is when was your mom born?
Well, she was in 1926.
Yeah, and see, women in the 50s and 60s were all about costume jewelry, and it's, you know, sometimes you'll see an estate and there'll be just dresser drawers full of it, thousands of pieces, and then it kind of ebbs and flows with the collectors. You know, it's like 10 years ago, you just couldn't keep Bakelite or rhinestones in, and then they died, and now they're really hot again. It's kind of like turquoise jewelry does that too.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's fun to know what
Yeah.
they are, where they came from.
Well, thank you for
Thanks.
bringing them in.
Ah.
Okay, well, hi, how you doing?
Pretty good.
So you brought in a little valise full of things, and I
Right.
selected out one thing, and you selected out one
Right,
thing.
that's correct.
Okay, are you a Montana guy?
I'm Montanan.
Are you? Yeah. I was going to say probably because you have a Bob Scriver bronze, but we are lucky here in Montana because Bob Scriver is the premier Western bronze maker. And he's also really prolific. I think that he did over 10,000 titles. I know that when he passed away 3, 4, 5 years ago, probably 5 years ago.
At least, I think.
Yeah.
More than that, yes.
Yeah, the appraiser worked on the collection for well over a year to get it appraised. I'm an art dealer / appraiser / a lot of things, and I have a gallery at the C.M. Russell Art Auction every year, and so I handle a lot of Scriver bronzes. I handle Russells and Remingtons and Paxsons and Sharps, but Scriver bronzes sell quicker than any of those other artists.
How about Ace Powell?
Yeah, I handle Ace Powell.
Because I have an Ace Powell bronze,
Yeah,
too.
I think his auction record is in the mid 5 figures, you know, 50, 60,000, maybe more. And a little piece like this in my gallery, a Scriver bronze like that, I'd sell it for 3,000 to 3,500, somewhere in there. Okay,
Okay.
very good. And then what you wanted me to appraise something that you had.
Actually, this is something that I got when I was, as this hand-me-down toy in either 1936 or 1937. And I'm just curious what...
Well, it was hand-me-down because that's what, about a 1923?
I would say it's close to 1930.
Is it a factual model? Is it?
I would think so, yeah.
Yeah, you're probably right. It's got more of a rounded back. 1923 would be still Model A Ford.
That'd be true, yeah. This is after 1929, I know that.
Right, when I first saw it, I thought it was, you know, it's cast iron. It's a roadster. You know, we don't know if it's a Ford or a Chrysler or whatever, but it's cast iron with green enamel, and it's got the original finish to it. I thought it was an arcade when I first saw it, and it's not made by maker. So it's a high-end American maker. So value on it is 125, somewhere in there.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, you brought in the Stein.
Yep.
Where did you come by this?
Oh, my mom got it about 15 years ago at a rummage sale.
Really?
And she's
Okay.
passed it on to me for...
Yeah, I like
So-
the character of it.
Yes, I do.
It's really fun. What's his little pouch about? He's a fisherman. He's got some little trout hanging. No, they're birds. I'm sorry. He's got little doves hanging down there that he went out and, being the nice little Smoky Bear guy, blew them away. And,
Yep,
you know,
yep.
he's going to take them home and eat them. Anyway, it's a traditional German Stein in the sense that, you know, it's got the handle and the pewter thumb lever on it.
Yep.
It's ceramic. It's hallmarked or it's stamped as they did with most German Stein factories. The big
Okay.
factories were Musterschutz, Gunderson, and you know, they generally marked it if it was from one of those factories. This one, though, you know, it's a character Stein. You can tell by the slip glaze. They started putting the slip glaze on in the 1930s.
Oh, okay.
The really old ones, you know, well, the regimental Steins for the military, which were real popular, were always porcelain.
Oh,
and
okay.
then the ones for the beer halls were always, you know, ceramic,
Yeah,
crockery, or
yeah.
stoneware. This one is a porcelain with a slip glaze, and then it's all hand painted and airbrush painted. So I date it 1930s, 1940s. Stein auctions love these kind of quirky ones with the,
Yeah,
the guys
very
like
cute.
that. So I would say it would go at auction for $700 to $800.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow,
So
great.
there you have it.
Thank
He's
you very
fun.
much.
You bet,
Thank
man.
you.
Thanks. Okay, what would you bring in, Lanny?
Okay, this is my dad was helped build aircraft carriers during the war, 1944 in Vancouver, Washington. They were commissioned to build 16. They built 19 of them, and this is Kaiser himself from the Kaiser companies built them. And he commended them for the fact they went over and above.
Really?
And they said they helped save lives, helped possibly save bring the war to an end sooner,
Mm-hmm.
because they put out 19 of them.
Yeah, well, it's a Kaiser ship and it's a flat top, so it must be a carrier.
Yeah,
for,
and
for
that's
airplanes.
all they built was
Yeah.
aircraft carriers.
And you know, the guys that made these ships were heroes, and then the pilots were heroes too, because they try to land on rough seas, and I think their attrition rate was about 1 in 3 trying to land.
Wow,
You know?
is that right?
But it's, you know, I agree with you. You know, the war effort in 1941, 42, we were starting to get into the war, and we were going to lose,
Right,
Because we
right.
weren't tooled up,
Right,
and
right.
so all of a sudden we got our factories going. We got like the wave that was in here earlier. We had a woman who had been a World
Wow.
War II wave who worked in factories
Wow,
as well,
really? Cool.
and they saved our neck.
You bet.
Yeah. So what you have here, this is a
The
chromolithographic print.
Right. That's the Casablanca.
Yeah, of the USS
Right.
Casablanca.
Right.
Man, that sounds like a party ship.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah. And, you know, like I say, this is a chromolithograph here. It's not hand tinted. It almost looks like it's hand tinted. I would get this tape off here eventually. Don't do it yourself. There's solvents.
That's what I heard.
Yeah, go out to the U of M archives and ask them what
And
they
have them
might
do it?
use,
Okay.
or here at their archival places. But this is great. It's a thank you letter by Henry Kaiser, the owner of the ship company.
Right, exactly.
And he was the guy who did it,
Very
but he
much.
was ultimately thankful to his employees for doing it, because he
Yes.
knew that they were busting their butts doing it.
You bet.
And
You
working
bet.
overtime to save our
You
country.
bet.
So if you just had this, you know, it would be of interest to naval collectors who collect,
Right.
especially aviation, the CV units,
Exactly.
the heavier than air fighter units. You
Right.
know, maybe it held Marines too. I'm not quite
I
sure
don't know.
about
They
that.
got to show the guys standing on it and everything. And,
Yeah.
but
So just the folder itself, Lanny, would be, you know, maybe $40, $50 to a military collector. But this adds so much more interest to it because it's signed by the head of the
Right.
factory. He's not famous, but it just ties it all together as being a nice World War II artifact. I'd say a
Exactly.
couple of $100.
wow,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
I figured it'd probably be in
Yeah.
that area. Well,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Well, it's neat. It's your dad's.
Yeah.
I hate to throw value on something
Yeah,
like
he was.
personal
I think
like
I used a cutting torch. He was.
Oh, did he?
Right on the ship. So.
Oh, yeah. Is he still alive?
No, he
Yeah.
passed away a couple of years. And in fact, I dug this out of the closet before my mother moved, and we said, "Well, whoa," you know.
Yeah.
We hadn't seen it. I hadn't seen it since I never did, you know. Until.
No, that's neat. Well, thank you.
Well, you
Yeah.
bet.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah. So you brought these in. Where did you get them? We're trying to figure out where people got stuff and how they came into their lives. We're all about that story as well as me
Yeah.
yammering about how much it's worth.
Well, I love to go yard sailing, and my nephew and I found this at a yard sale. So we,
Did you fight over it?
no, we're just kind of sharing it right now.
Yeah.
But we were just kind of curious, as to, you know, to find out what the worth was or what it even said, because it's in a foreign language, and we really don't know what it said.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what it is first. It's you look at it, you think pewter, but it's not. It's spelterware, which is a cast metal. And spelterware kind of came into vogue in the 1890s when they were doing a lot of bronzes. Well, the French wanted to speed the bronze casting process up, and they started doing a poured metal. And so it cooled quickly, and it was fairly rigid. But you'll find if you were to scrunch this, that it would bend around like lead. So you have to be careful not to drop them or ding them. It does have a foreign maker's name stamped on the bottom, and that is really hard to read. Can't make it out. The inscription, again, this is German, and you know, we could translate it after we're done here as to what that slogan says. We have our translator / mic guy here who will help you with that. But I date it, you know, by the figures on it. There's the Victorian gentleman with his wine throwing something at his wife, and there's his wife, you know, waiting on him. The swine.
Yeah. I thought maybe the inscription on it was a story about the picture. So
Well,
I was
I don't-
trying to correlate the two together when I was trying to figure out what it was.
Yeah, I'm not
what it
so
was
certain
saying.
about that, but I wish I could read German. I'd be able to tell you. But you know, he's lounging back with a glass of vino. That's what I see, and then his wife is right there with him. But again, 1890s. You know, it's a drinking cup, and it's probably worth $200 to $300, depending on what the slogan says, and collectors like them according to the slogan. So sorry I can't translate, but you know,
that's okay.
there are a million online translation search engines right now. Just type it in, and it'll tell you what it reads. So,
All right. Well,
okay.
Thank you.
I picked this sewing machine up in Lake Havasu City at a garage sale about 2 years ago. And other than that, I don't know anything about it, and I figured this is a good way to find out.
Yeah. Well, it's a great. Have you used it? Have you tried it out?
I haven't done anything with it. I haven't even cleaned it up to speak of. It moves, but it needs to be cleaned up. But I thought I'm not going to touch it and mess with it until I maybe can find out what it's worth or what it should be, or
you can lightly
if
clean
it's
it with
worthwhile.
oil, get the grime off of it if you want to. And you see how it moves real slowly.
Right.
It needs a little lubrication
Right.
on it. Yeah. But sewing machines this size, they were created. Sewing machines are actually pretty early. In the early 19th century, they started to knock them out. And then, later on, you see the big heavy treadle sewing machines that were in everybody's houses at the turn of the 20th century. Well, these were made small to be portable to move around, and especially with the West expansion coming out to the West, This one, it has a factory label on it, which reads, it is by the Wilcox and Gibbs factory in New York. I could do a little research on it and give you an exact date. The last patent date is right here on this nickel-plated face, and it looks like 1871. So we know that this probably, all the parts to it were finally fashioned and perfected to this stage in 1871. It probably came out to Montana, not on a steamboat, but on a wagon because it was heavy.
Yeah, I got it in Nevada.
Oh,
or
came out to
Northern
Nevada. That's what I
Arizona,
meant.
actually. Yeah.
Okay, good. There are a lot of collectors of these, and you can see why. If you had 100 of them on shelves, it would collapse your shelves, but it would still fit, and it would be pretty. If you polish it up, a lot of them are gilted. This one has a really nice little bronze plaque on it, and you'll see them on eBay or in various auction formats for $150 to $350, somewhere in there. Yeah. This one, without having computer access, I'd say it'd be right in the middle. It's not super fancy, but it's intricate. So anyway, there you go. All right.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Well, hi, Julie.
Hi.
How are you? Yeah. What have you got?
Just a dish I bought at a rummage sale about 25 years ago. And I was just wondering if it was worth any money.
Well, you have a good eye. It's a nice Victorian piece. It's here, I'll have you hold that. And I don't know what you would call this pattern, with the little starred spiked fleur-de-lis look. Obviously I don't know what to call it because I just went through that silly string of those. But it's made by James McDuffie in Stratton. And it's Worcester porcelain from the town of Worcester, England, like Worcester sauce. Anyway, there are a lot of collectors of English porcelains because they're so beautiful, and in particular the blue. They really love the blue willow wares and various patterns like this. You can look at it and you can date it that way. Primarily because, if you look over here at the ram's head, which is a nice little fitting, there's a handle of a ram's head on either side. This is parcel gilted. That's where they went in and they actually hand painted the accents on it. So it's a parcel gilted piece, which makes it pre-1880s. That kind of fell out of vogue about 1880. And also a little bit of the styling. Like if you look up here, the top handle is a little bit neoclassical with some, it's got a little fantasy going in there with the rope and all. But I dated into that time period of, I don't know, why don't I actually say 1860 on it? That's where I'd stop with it. The value on it in the condition it's in is about $350. So,
Wow.
yeah. Okay.
There was a mark on the inside. What does that mean?
That would be the mold for this covered dish,
I
yeah. It says M177 or something, and that would just be this mold.
And then does it affect, how much does it affect the?
Yeah,
because
that
it's
takes
broken?
it down about 25 to 35%.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
Huh?
Okay.
Okay. Very
Good.
good.
Okay, Dick, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
So you're on the Ticonderoga. What's CVA? Heavier than air attack?
No, it's
14?
a carrier vessel attack
Oh, that's close. Well, so you were on that ship when? Or
in the early 50s.
in the 50s, yeah. Great. Well, thank you. What did you bring in?
A collection from Russia that my wife had a friend who was over there 30, 40 years ago and brought them back, and the collection consists of 16 pieces like this. And they're all different, of course.
So 30 or 40 years ago, it was the USSR.
Yep.
And what was she doing over there? Do you know?
Vacationing.
Okay. Well, each of these, I'm not sure who the manufacturer is. Each one on the bottom, it says hand painted in USSR. And, if these were from Denmark, for instance, they'd be Royal Copenhagen or, you could attribute it to who the artists and the factories were that produced them and decorated them. But this one, none of these are marked out. It just has like made in the USA. It says made in the USSR and hand painted there. But I like their style. I mean, this form is almost Russian tribal. I mean, that doesn't really equate when you're talking about the USSR, but it's got this early, almost an Asian influence to it, to where the horse's neck and mane are bowed. Same with her. They've got lovely form. I mean, if you look at her face, she's almost got Eurasian features. Not quite Eskimo, but the eyes are definitely Eurasian. And then this is all traditional painting in here. Like this floral, I would say you could probably find that same sort of a flower painted back a couple of hundred years on Russian porcelains. So there's, they have a newer slip glaze. I think that they were probably contemporary to when your friend got them to you guys. Meaning what, 1970s, is that what you said? 1980s?
Probably 70s.
Yeah. And hence, because they're so late, I mean, sure, if it were like, over here we have pieces by various makers, Bing and Grandel are Danish. We have Lladro, Lladro, who are made in Spain. They have more of a following because they're from a factory instead of a country. So I'm going to say $30 to $50 each, somewhere in there. But they'll get better. And because you have a collection of them, it draws the focus of an observer towards the artistry of the entire. It's like if you were to look at this, it could be like a little Art Deco pony if you hadn't looked at the bottom. But when you put these all together, you see cultural influences, which really make it more interesting, or their parts become more valuable in their entirety. All right, well anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you. You have a nice day.
Yeah, you too. Okay. Hi, Randy. How you
Hi.
doing?
Good.
Sorry, I
That's
got
all right.
lost there for a minute. Let's start with this piece. Tell me again where you got it.
My girlfriend bought that at a yard sale probably 20, 25 years ago for $1 or $2, something like that.
Really?
It's just
Yeah.
been hanging in our house.
I like the colors in it.
ever
Those
since.
are
Yeah.
Beautiful colors, yeah. And then you haven't had it out of the frame, have you?
No, we haven't.
Yeah. It might actually be worth doing. What I do is just take a needle nose pliers, dig those out of there gently, and then put them back as they were. Keep the original backing though. Don't ever get rid of that. It's an actual painting. It's not a print. And the reason there's glass on it is that it's mixed medium with some chalk in it. So it's like a pastel with a little bit of oil paint in it, which is a strange mix. It's hard to, it's funny it's not signed. So that's why I want you to look at the back in the idea of looking for a signature. Because it could be by a minor landscapist. I mean, it's not high art because when you look into the core of the painting right here, your focus is here at the ships, and the ships are each just one brush stroke.
Right.
There's not a lot of work involved in that, nor in the water. The water is kind of one flat surface. It's funny how many dealers and collectors can't tell a good painting from a bad painting. This isn't a bad painting, it's just not a great painting. And hence, not being signed, I just have to look at it as a genre painting. It's probably, I don't think it's American, I think it's probably European. I love the frame though. What a killer little frame. It's got all these seashell scallops in the corners. The frame also has the original glass. If you look, it's all wavy. And earlier I mentioned how they used to make wavy glass as they blow one big bubble and let it fall on a cast iron table with water, and then they would cut it into squares. Hence, it's all wavy. But if I were to sell it in my art gallery, I would put it at around, it's nice enough, I'd try it at $1,000 and see if it sold. You can sell art of this era and vintage over those of contemporary painters at times who have good names. Just because you look at it, you love the frame, you love the glass, you love the colors, and so it's a beautiful thing.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi, Torin.
Hi.
How you doing, buddy?
Good.
So what's going on? You out enjoying the 4th of July out there?
Yeah.
You eat some bad food? Hot dogs, pop? No? Okay. What did you bring in here?
That is a train that my grandpa gave me. And it was made in New York.
Okay. Good eye. By the Louis Marx factory, wasn't it? Yeah. Well, what it is, have you seen where they're cleaning up the Milltown Dam outside of town here, and they're going in there scooping all that sludge out? Then they would have like a ditch digger dump dirt in this car, or it could be coal or whatever, and then it's a dump car. Whenever they get to their destination, they turn the top and it pivots over. But the Louis V. Marx toy factory, I don't have my data here in front of me, but I think they started at about 1900, somewhere in there, way, way, way back. And they were kind of the Nintendo of their day, you know, so they made everything out of pressed steel, and then they would actually have machines that would lithograph a picture on the outside of the car. So this is a tin lithograph machine by Louis Marx, and it's a dump car, and it's from one of their sets. If you look at their Marx train sets, you could get the engine, and then you could add the different cars behind it. And I think it's been in a place where it got wet, or maybe it was underground at one time. And I actually love dug relics, you know, when something's uncovered in a yard or something. It may have been like out in the yard and somebody stumbled on it and it came back to life again and then went from him to you, you know. So envision who originally had that about 1900, 1910, 1920, and then think where it went until your grandpa got it and gave it to you. It's been around all those years, just nobody knew where it was, you know. Yeah. Value on it is that the longer you hold on to it, the more valuable it'll get. So, okay. Thank you very much. So you have a car mascot. That's a neat Art Deco one. Where did you get that?
Well, my grandfather gave it to me. It's been in the family for at least a couple generations. And I kind of did some research on the internet, and it looks like it might be from a Packard.
Oh, really?
So I wasn't sure.
Good.
How
I was
much.
going to ask you that. Yeah. Yeah, well, you know, it's called a car mascot rather than a hood ornament. This scar right here, I got on a 1957 Chevy when I was a kid because my brother was washing it and I fell and sliced my arm on the ornament. But I don't know why they got rid of them. You know, they just were beautiful and had a lot of style for the car. They should do them again, I think. Right. Whoever designed this was, you know, it's in the Art Deco movement, so it probably comes in the 1930s. I'd say this car was probably 1933, 1936. You can tell it's the original to the era, not to the car. I don't know if this was factory when they came off the Packard. Have you seen any on any cars? You might.
No, and I even looked on the internet, and they didn't have any like that.
Yeah.
But I went on a Packard website, and it did describe that.
That's what I was thinking. It'd be kind of fun to just track the cars and see what you could see, you know. Right. So there were aftermarket mascots too that you could buy out of catalogs, and they'd send it to you, and then you'd put it on your Packard / Ford / whatever you had. But the auction market on these can be really good depending on what they are. Like there are ones made by Lalique Glass that sell in big houses for $100,000. But you know, one like this is just really great, and it's going to be in the condition a couple of $100s. And you could see why, if you put that up for auction, a lot of people would be all over it, including Art Deco nuts. You know, I mean, it's just so stylized and so beautiful.